arguably the game of the week is USC at Oregon. And it feels really weird for a lot of different reasons. It's weird that these are two teams that are in the Big Ten. I think that's the biggest reason why this is weird. This is a Big Ten matchup. It's not a Pac-12 matchup. And that's the part of college football realignment that I don't like. I don't like that this is a Big Ten matchup. I don't like that it's not in the Pac-12 anymore. Now you have to get over it. I have to get over it, but it's just the weirdest thing to have this be a Big Ten matchup. And a Big Ten matchup that holds tremendous weight for the college football playoff. Both of these teams are still in that conversation. And both teams are technically still in the Big Ten championship conversation as well. Now, they do need Indiana and or Ohio State to lose, and even then, tiebreakers would come into play, but they're still technically in it. They're still they're on the outside looking in, but they are still technically in this conversation. But really what they're looking for is an at-large berth to the college football playoff. Now, when you look at how these two teams got here, these are two teams that are not without flaw. Both of them have struggled in certain games, and that has raised concerns about what they could do in the playoff. Now, when you look at USC, they have losses to Illinois and Notre Dame. Those are going to hurt. Granted, they were closer losses, so it wasn't like they got destroyed, but there are some concerns about, is this USC team capable of making a run to the playoff? Are they capable of beating a team like Oregon? That is a big question. Now, you look at the talent that they have, they are capable of doing it, but can they actually pull through? Now, for Oregon, their biggest game of the year was a 10-point loss to Indiana. Their best win is against a 5-5 Northwestern team at the beginning of the season. So, what is that going to do for them in terms of the playoff? Especially if they happen to lose this game, that's when conversations need to be had about, if they're 10-2, what does that mean for them? Are they going to be a playoff team? We're not at that point, but that's the stuff you have to look ahead to, because it's going to be a question if you walk into that situation and all of a sudden you have a 10-2 Oregon team and your best win is going to be probably against Washington if you're able to beat them. But for this game, I'm very excited to watch both quarterbacks. We'll start with USC. Jayden Maiava is having a good year, and I think that he has been very fun to watch at times. He's also struggled with consistency. If you get consistent Jayden Maiava, then you're going to have a chance. You're also going to have to do this on the road. Over 2,800 yards for him, 18 touchdowns. His wide receivers have been phenomenal. I think that Mekhi Lemon is one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in college football. You can make an argument for that based off of his production. You can make an argument for that. Jacoby Lane has been explosive at times. He's made highlight reel catches. He is a very dangerous option. You've also seen other guys step up when injuries have played a role. Tight end Lake McCree has been a big role of this offense. Tanook Hines has been a emerging player for them as well. So you've had guys that have made Maiava's life a lot easier, but you've also seen him struggle in big time games where you need him to play well. The Nebraska game was not pretty. And if you're picking Oregon to win, it's because you're pointing to that game as an example of what you can do to slow him down. Now, the rushing attack has been really good, and there's a reason why they let Quinton Joyner walk, which at the time was crazy. I think a lot of people were questioning why they would let him go to the portal and leave. But when you look at what this running back room has been this year, you can see why. You had Waymon Jordan. You knew that even before Quinton Joyner was going to transfer. You knew that he was going to be a potential star for this team. And he goes out with an injury, and I think fans were wondering, okay, well, now what do we do? King Miller has stepped up, and they haven't skipped a beat. 99 carries for him, 719 yards. He's averaging 7.3 yards per carry with 5 touchdowns. Eli Sanders has been kind of that Swiss Army knife, that utility back as a runner and as a pass catcher as well. So they've been fine without Waymon Jordan, and King Miller has been a huge reason why. They need that rushing attack to play a role this weekend. They need their offensive line to be able to have an impact and be efficient running the football. Because if they are not able to do that, you're going to be in for probably a long, long matchup. Now, your defense has to step up as well. Oregon's dealing with some injuries, and I have a feeling that a lot of those guys that can go will play in this game. That being said, this is a defense that at times has been able to shut down the opposing offense, but other times you've seen them struggle. Which kind of defense are we going to get? Are they ready for the physicality that is the Oregon Ducks? I'm very curious to see what Oregon is going to roll out in terms of their offense, because this has been a versatile offense. At times they've been kind of a ground and pound power team. They've also been that traditional Ducks team that's spread it out. Dante Moore has been awesome. He's been so good with this offense, but he also needs his receivers and his pass catchers to be available. If they're not able to go, then that's where USC maybe is in position to potentially pull off this upset. Oregon's 9.5-point favorites right now. And I think that indicates that some of those guys should be able to go. Now, who's going to be able to go? I don't know. I don't have that insider information, but that's a huge part of this game. Oregon's 9-1. They're still very much in that playoff conversation. In fact, right now, if they win out, they're in. There's not a question about that. But like I said, if this team struggles and they have 2 losses at the end of the year, there might be a conversation about keeping them out. I don't necessarily know if I'd be part of that conversation, but it is a conversation that will be had. You can deny it all you want, but people are going to look at these resumes and wonder what Oregon's doing with their best win being 5-5 Northwestern, or if they beat Washington, that would be their best win. That's not a strong resume, and quality losses just don't matter. I don't want to hear that. But this is an Oregon team that controls its own destiny for the playoff. To get back to a playoff where you have a sour taste in your mouth from the playoff. And I think Dan Lanning's done a great job of keeping his team focused week to week. They did not get caught looking ahead to this game against USC when they were playing Minnesota. They took care of business against Minnesota. They made sure that, hey, we're not worried about next week because we can't play that game next week until we get past Minnesota. They took care of business. They won. They went on to the next thing, and they take it day by day. If there's a guy that can get his team focused in the right way, it's Dan Lanning. And this is where they need to be focused now. They don't have to worry about the next game. They're worried about USC because USC is capable of beating this team. Now, the one nice thing for Oregon is even with the injuries, because your top receiver is Decorian Moore, who only has 443 yards. So it's not like this offense has been an air raid by any means. The rushing attack has been deep. The rushing attack has been efficient. Of their top 4 running backs, Jaden Lamar has the lowest yards per carry at 5.9. He's averaging nearly 6 yards a carry, and he's the worst on this team. De'Aaron Hill Jr., 8.7. Jordan Davison, 7. Noah Whittington, 8.2. This is a rushing attack that is very efficient, and you have to give credit to the offensive line. That's another area to look at. What is Alex Harkey's status going forward? That's going to be something to pay attention to. But this rushing attack has been just fine, regardless of what's going on with the passing attack and regardless of who's up front. That has been very fun to watch and very promising for this Oregon team. And if they can pull it all together by the end of the season, in this game and in the next one, this is a dangerous team in the playoff because they have the ability to win it all. This is a team that can win a national championship. They just have to be healthy. They have to be consistent. And they really, again, the health is the biggest thing. They need Decorian Moore to be healthy. They need Kenyon Sadiq. They need Gary Bryant Jr. They have weapons. They have 6 guys that have 200 yards receiving or more. That is something to keep an eye on. How consistent can they be throwing the ball? And what does that mean for them going forward? Now, their defense has to find ways to get to Jane Maeva. And Nebraska kind of gave them the blueprint for doing that. They gave them the blueprint of how do we slow him down and make him inconsistent? Because this USC team is explosive when they're playing at their ceiling, but they're real rough when they're at their floor and when they're struggling. And if there's a defense that can find ways to be disruptive to USC, it's the Oregon Ducks. That's a team can definitely do that. So how do you make that happen is going to be the big key. And playing at home is huge. Playing in Autzen Stadium is always going to be an advantage that the Ducks will utilize. And if they're able to slow down this USC passing attack, especially with the talent that group has, then you're going to be in a great position to win this football game. I am going to pick the Ducks to win this one. I just don't think that USC has the ability to keep this one close, especially if Oregon is making life tough for Jane Maeva. Again, injuries are going to play a role in Oregon and their offense, but I'm very curious to see what they can do. We've seen them be tough. They clearly have depth, and that could be enough to win this game.